Hello everyone. In our previous video we looked at how you would plan a response. What we're going to focus on now is how you would write a full mark response for the AQA A English Literature A2 papers, question 1, section A of paper 1. So if you have yet to look at how to plan a response and to explore what exactly you're being asked to cover, then please obviously view that video before you view this one, because that entails our questions and also looks at our planning methods. Here's the question once again. So read the passage from Othello provided below and respond to the following. How does Shakespeare present aspects of love in this passage? Examine the view that in this passage and elsewhere in the play, as wives Ymir and Desdemona have much in common. So again, we've already planned our response, making sure we've covered all elements of the mark scheme. So what does a response look like and how do we write it? Well, our introduction obviously needs to make sure that we avoid generic information about a text, and let's immediately get into the argument. We may begin to briefly explain why that is, but you should save this for your main paragraphs. Then obviously within the main paragraphs themselves, that's where you're going to achieve the majority of your marks. You need to make sure that your point is nice and clear and valid. You need to make sure that in your answer you're exploring all the relevant AOs. And then obviously when we're writing that, we need to make sure that either as part of the same paragraph or separately, we need to be thinking about the rest of our play. You're probably going to have, depending on your style, 2 to 3 main points which you're going to cover here. Then the conclusion, well, that kind of reaffirms your argument once more, making it clear why you feel this way about a text and why they've presented love in this way. You might also, to continue with your AO1, wish to state what aspect of your argument you felt was the most important and why that is. You should also be evaluating why the writer presents these ideas in that way. That again is evaluative, that again highlights that you're seeing the contextuality of the text itself as well. So what does an answer look like? Well, there is no doubt that Shakespeare presents love in Othello as something which is not only clearly patriarchal but unequal and dishonest. These later two ideas fly against the notion of the traditional Christocentric idea of marriage. So you can see even in that short passage my debate is clear. I've stated clearly what I'm going to be focusing on. I've also started to look at the notion of the structure of the text and obviously the context as well. As highlighted above, Shakespeare clearly presents to his audience in the extract that love is something which is unfair. Whilst discussing the notion of adultery to Emilia, the character Desdemona remarks that no, by his heavenly light, she would not commit such a crime. This highlights the unfair nature of love, as even under characters who observe the traditional role of the subservient female, she is still being cruelly treated by her spouse. Shakespeare reinforces this notion to the audience through the metaphor light, which represents purity and positivity, clearly connoting the innocence of Desdemona. The number of interrogative sentences used by the character Desdemona within the passage also highlights the lack of knowledge the character has in regards to impure activity, which once again demonstrates the character's innocence despite the accusations from her husband. Shakespeare's motif of colour in reference to love is immediately used in a dishonest fashion by the character Iago. So you can see now at the start of the extract, I'm moving around different parts of the play. I've looked at sentence types here, I've looked at language already, I've again referenced context. Who claims an old black ram is topping your white ewe. The / symbolises, obviously, as we know, the next line. The traditional symbolic use of black in reference to all things sinister and evil for the Moor is juxtaposed to the white ewe, which not only reinforces the notion of innocence highlighted earlier, but is a Christocentric reference to the lamb in order to cruelly exaggerate the notion of corruption said to be taking place. Alternatively, a psychological reading of this is that the character Iago is jealous due to his love of the character Othello, and it is his jealousy, hamartia, rather than Othello's, which instigates the tragic nature of the plot. You can see there the nice start of my second paragraph, but you get the idea. I will repeat that structure at least twice more. You can hear the amount of the assessment objectives which I'm ticking off as I'm going along. And ultimately at the end I'm going to making sure I'm proofing my response and make sure it's correct. Overall, let's look at our conclusion now. The nature of love is seen to be truly of a pejorative one, with none of the characters in the play remaining unharmed by its nature. Even Cassio is left psychologically and in some ways physically scarred by the events. However, it is clear from a feminist perspective that love is most harmful to the females of the patriarchal world in which the play is set. I proofread, I make sure I'm happy with that work, and that's exactly how you're going to do it to achieve perfect marks. trick is making sure you know your play, know your readings inside out. There's no reason why you shouldn't do that. Thank you, and keep revising.